Good morning, everyone. My name is Dozie, and on behalf of Vetiva Capital and our media partners at Frontier Africa Reports, I would like to thank you for joining us on our breakfast meeting today, which is Thursday, the 25th of March, 2021. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and is also being broadcast live on our Vetiva online page on Facebook. This meeting is set to last for 30 minutes, inclusive of Q&A. The Q&A session will be held after all speakers are done. On our agenda today, we'll get a rundown and outlook for the fixed income and equity spaces, and then we will move to our media partners with their own updates. We will now start off with Sean with his take for the equity space. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning, Chidozie, and good morning, everyone. We start today by taking a look at performance of two markets in West Africa. We look at the BRVM as well as the Ghana Stock Exchange. The BRVM sustained negative return from previous session, closing 4 basis points lower, moving the year-to-date return to negative 3.44%. We also saw negative investor sentiment in that market, as we saw 11 gainers and 16 laggards at the trading session yesterday. Moving to Ghana, for the second consecutive session, we saw the composite index remaining unchanged. We saw Ghana Oil Company recording the highest volume of trade, followed largely by MTN Ghana in that market. The year-to-date remained positive at 14.06, and I believe we might just continue to see this sort of reaction in the Ghana market. Not so much going on, and then with mixed sentiments, most times slightly positive. Moving to Nigeria, the market swung back into positive territory in the previous session, as we saw decent gains in ICAP stocks, moving the ASI to a 98 bips close. Dansem yesterday closed to 27 bips, having moved from 220 to 225. We also saw MTN, which closed to 42 bips or higher. Nigerian Breweries as well as Stanbic, they all ensured that the market moved back to the green in yesterday's session. Though we saw losses in WAPCO, which is on the back of an unimpressive dividend payout for full year 2020, the company declared 1 naira dividend, which invariably means is less than 5% dividend yield. So this sent the price downwards, and the stock closed 711 bips down on the day, having traded at some point. It was actually around 911 basis point down, but improved slightly to close 711 bips. Other losers in the market were MRS Oil as well as ETI. Once again, the banking sector sustained the third session of negative close. Though other sectors remain positive, but the banking sector has been closing negative. In yesterday's session, it shaded 21 bips, despite the positive close we saw in Stanbic after it announced the 3 naira 60 kobo dividend payout, which comes to about 8.2% dividend yield, and investors reacted positively to that result, as the stock actually closed up 999 bips at as its intraday high price.
Thank you, Sean.
Closing positive. Sorry about that. Hello, am I still connected? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. So the consumer goods, industrial, as well as the oil and gas, all closed higher to all maintain their positive rate till date green close. Moving to activity level were slightly lower in the last session as both the volume and value traded came in lower at 11 and 5% respectively. We saw huge crosses in GT Bank as well as MTN in the session at market open, as the two names actually accounted for 58% of the total value traded in yesterday's session. All right, then moving into today and our outlook, we expect crosses to continue to dominate the market, like we have seen since the beginning of the week, as investors continue to take cautious approach to market. So we're not seeing enough retail investors in the market. Crosses, Largely the market has been filled with crosses, and that's what we've seen since the beginning of the week. However, with investor sentiment improving in yesterday's session to 1.25 times, as we saw 20 advancers and 16 decliners, we believe few risk takers with longer term view will continue to cherry pick decent names in the market. Also, as corporate announcements continue to flood the market, we believe most names should actually sending their results between now and the end of the month. So as we continue to see those results come in, we expect investors to react to this performance accordingly. So names that have declared good dividends or that have seen decent year-on-year growth will most likely get some level of patronage, while um, most of the names that any name that is probably that has performed underperformed will see investors punish such names. So those are the things we'll see in the market today. Thank you very much. That is it for equities.
Thank you, Cheryl. We will now move to Onyeka Injoma, our industrial goods analyst, who will talk about WAPCO's and Dankton's FY20 numbers. Good morning, Onyeka.
Good morning, Chidozie. Um, I'll give a brief run through of Dangote Cement and WAPCO's results. So over the past 2 days, we've seen two of the larger cement producers release their full year 20 results. On a year-on-year basis, both did particularly well, especially considering the issues we had in 2020. Um, this is largely indicative of what we had expected to see in the market, given that we saw record levels of capital expenditure disbursements from the public sector in 2020. Looking at Dangote Cement results, they finally crossed the 1 trillion naira mark in terms of revenue. This was down to record top lines in both the Nigerian and Pan-African business. EBITDA margins continue to hold largely steady as management opted to maintain margins by raising prices across key markets. And at the bottom line, we saw profits rise by almost 40% year on year to about 276 billion naira. It's a very, very impressive result from Dangote Cement, and significantly better than the slump we saw in 2019. However, we should note that this is largely in line with expectations, almost no deviation from mine and other analysts' expectations. And so while we do expect some positive sentiment from the strong year-on-year performances, I don't expect a bullish run on the stock. WAPCO, on the other hand, also released impressive results on a year-on-year basis. Revenue was up from about 213 billion to over 230 billion. operating profits significantly up, almost around 10% year on year. Was also significantly up, and their profit after tax was up about around 98% year on year. Considering that after you exclude the profit from discontinued operations that they recorded in 2019 of about 99.5 billion or thereabouts. That said, I should note that WAPCO's results, while still very strong on a year-on-year basis, was a little weaker than mine and other analysts' expectations in the market. And this was down to a largely weak Q4, weaker than expected Q4. We had seen strong cement demand towards the end of Q2 in 2020 and throughout Q3 in 2020. And given the expectations for CapEx disbursements and the rapid real estate disbursements for real estate projects we saw in the fourth quarter, we had expected a much stronger result from WAPCO. However, this result was a little underwhelming, considering their size and position in the market. And even though we do expect some knee-jerk reactions from, given the positive year-on-year performances, we think that ultimately there might be a correction, in the next couple of sessions. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. We will now move to Omorige for fixed income and currencies. Good morning, Omorige.
Good morning, Chidozie. Good morning, everybody. So I'll start with the money market. The money market is still very liquid. Yesterday, we witnessed a further decline in system liquidity as money markets opened about 95.6 billion positive, coming from 131.4 billion positive where it opened on Tuesday. However, money market rate declined to trade between 12% to 13% from around 15% levels where it traded on Tuesday. So despite possible more funding pressure that is expected to play out today, our expectation for money market rate is that they will trade at lower levels on the back of FAR credit. FAR credit that is coming in today should dampen the more funding pressure. So moving on to the FS market, we saw a slight appreciation of the Naira in the in window yesterday. The parallel market remained flat to trade around 486 Naira to $1, while the in window traded at a high of 414 Naira to $1, closing at 408.75 Naira to $1. For the CBN interbank market, we saw that close at 381 Naira to $1. The industry turnover increased slightly yesterday as it closed at $34.76 million, coming from the $33.11 million where it closed on Tuesday. So we don't see Naira trading at lower levels, given that the supply of FS to the system is still very, very insignificant. Moving on to the Tbs market. The Tbs market saw continued bearishness in the NTB space yesterday, with a lot of players trying to offload their positions. We saw a lot of offers across the curve. We saw the CBN special bill offered around 6% levels, while the newly issued one-year bill was offered around 6.3% levels. In the OMO space, we saw sustained demand there, but because of paucity of security on that end, overall, few trades were consummated on that end. So we also saw trades consummated on the NTB space, particularly on the long end of the TBS curve. Market attention yesterday was generally diverted to the bonds auction that happened yesterday. So our expectation for today is that the TBS market will trade the sentiment that played out yesterday, while we'll see players try to offload their NTB position with the view that they will get higher rates at the auction next week. We also believe that most market players will just sit on the sideline waiting for the OMO auction results to serve as a direction for interest rates. Moving on to the bonds market, it was yet another quiet trading session in the bonds market yesterday, as participants eagerly awaited the bond auction results to give them a direction of interest rate movement. We saw significant demand. Our subscription came to about 333% for the 150 billion offered. We saw the DMO take advantage of the aggressive bid and mop up about 262.8 billion. What was worthy to note here is that this is the first time this year that the DMO is allocating more than the offer amount in the bonds auction. Interestingly, at the previous two auctions, they sold less than the offer amount just to keep rates low. In January, they sold 28 billion less than the offer amount, while in February, they sold 69 billion less than the offer amount. From what happened this auction now, we believe that their stance is they are willing to increase marginal rate if that's what it will take for them to issue more debt. At the auction, the 2027 subscription up to about 65.25 billion. The offer amount on that space was 50 billion. They sold 44.01 billion. The marginal rate was 10.5%, coming from 10.25% where it closed at the last auction. This was 25 basis point increase. For the 2035, the subscription on that end was about 110.19 billion. The offer amount was also 50 billion. The total amount allocated was 86.29 billion. The marginal rate was 11.5%, coming from 11.25% where it closed at the last auction. This was also a 25 basis point increase, while the long end, as the 2045, saw a subscription of about 158.04 billion. The offer amount was also 50 billion, and the total amount allocated was 131.78 billion. The marginal rate for that end was 12%, coming from 11.8% where it closed at the last auction. That's a 20 basis point increase. So our expectation for today is that the bonds market will trade on a very moderate note due to the extremely tight system liquidity, as players also trade post-auction sentiment. We also expect a slight uptick in rates, given that the marginal rates are not really far from pre-auction secondary market levels. So that will be all for fixed income. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Morgan. We will now move to Temple from Frontier Africa Reports for their own updates. Good morning, Temple.
Good morning. And taking off from South Africa, we see that the South Africa's inflation eased by 2.9% for the month of February from 3.2% in January. The South African government, the Treasury specifically, also reduced the weekly debt auctions by 2.6 billion rand. The Namibian government expects some 603 million Namibian dollars in dividends this year. For the northern part of Africa, we'll focus on Morocco, where that country's total produce exports to the UK has now grown by 51% post-Brexit. And it is expected that with this development, the official reserves assets will hit some 310.3 billion dirhams at the end of this year. And for the western part of Africa, Nexim Bank gave an update that the first raw cocoa beans exports has been exported out of Calabar port. That is something remarkable. Ghana, here's an update on its $5 billion Eurobond. It comes with a 0 coupon, 4-year maturity, and 3 tenors. We're watching how that will pan out eventually. The central bank there is also looking to host regional training of central bankers or central bank officials very soon. Finally, is the eastern part of Africa, where you have Mozambique Air suspending flights to Kenya with effect from Monday, March the 29th of this month. Decision is actually taking due to air travel slump, the result of COVID-19. They basically said that is to help them manage their operational burden at this point. And then MTN Uganda posts a 9.5% revenue increase, which came in at a total of 1.98 trillion Ugandan shillings, and that's for the 2020 calendar year. These are our stories for today at Frontier Africa. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much. We have now come to the question and answer portion of the meeting. If you would like to speak, you can raise your hand and we'll give you an opportunity to speak, or you may use the comment function on Facebook or on Zoom and we will tweet your question. But before we take questions, a quick announcement. Tomorrow, Teresa Orji, the Managing Director of Vetiva Trustees Limited, will be speaking on accessing global markets via trust. The meeting will be held at our normal breakfast time tomorrow, so it actually promises to be an insightful and exciting session. I see that somebody had raised their hand, but they lowered it. So with that, it would appear we have no other. Okay, the person has. Yeah, I see Boston has raised his hand. Okay, sorry about that. Hello, Boston. Your hand is raised.
Yes, yeah, thank you very much. You can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Sorry, am I audible?
Yes.
Hello? Okay, sorry,
Yes.
I just $5 billion. What we tried, one of the investment firms in Accra yesterday evening, and what the clarification we got was that the about $1.5 billion of the total amount will be for budgetary support, while the government will spend the balance in trying to be part of its to do liquidity management. We remember that Ghana just finished off last year is engagement with the International Monetary Fund. So they are not looking for any multilateral fund right now. So they went to the Eurobond market for this. That's what the administration in Ghana wants to do. The paper is coming up at the rate at which they believe is competitive right now, even though we were told that they could have done this a few months ago when yields in the US and other developed markets were not coming as strong as we've seen them over the last couple of few months, especially since 2021 started. But I think the election last year was a bit of an issue for them. They were trying to resolve all that, put their acts together, exit the IMF and their program, and then be able to go to the Eurobond market. What is happening was that there's a whole lot that Ghana is looking to offer now. We were told there's a massive inflow, a very steady inflow of foreign investments into Ghana right now. And the government is banking on these particular inflows to help the economy and the markets move forward as well. That's a little bit of update on that particular story. Thank you, everyone, and good morning. Have a great day.
Thank you, Boston. Okay, I see we have no further questions. Again, tomorrow at 8:30, Teresa Orji, Managing Director, Vetiva Trustees Limited, will be speaking on accessing global markets via trust. It will be at the same time as the breakfast meeting tomorrow at 8:30. We have now come to the conclusion of our meeting. We thank you for joining us today. We continue to encourage everyone to keep safe, and we look forward to having you join us again tomorrow at the same time. And we hope everyone has a good day. Goodbye.